We're now getting ready to multiply more involved radicals. For example, I might want you to multiply 3 square root of 5 minus 2 times 4 square root of 5 plus 1. To remind us how we do this, if this were the algebraic binomial 3x minus 2 times 4x plus 1, we recall that we're going to use FOIL in order to multiply these. We would do first inner and outer, and then the last. And that's what we're going to employ to multiply these. I call them binomial. They're not really polynomials. These two parentheses. One of the things that we're going to use about this is if we look at this first path, we're going to have square root of 5 times square root of 5. One way to do this is to, because you're multiplying radicals, they're both in jail, is to multiply what's under. 5 times 5 is 25, but then we know square root of 25 is just 5 by itself. Another way to do square root of 5 times square root of 5 is to recognize that it's the square root of two of the identical numbers. So because we have 2, out from that pair comes 1, and we get the same result. In general, if I say square root of triangle times square root of triangle, when I'm multiplying the two of the identicals, that just releases them out of the square root, and you just get plain triangle. I'm now going to perform this multiplication using the FOIL. So my first step is I am going to do 3 radical 5 times 4 radical 5. 3 times 4 is 12. Radical 5 times radical 5 is plain 5. Now doing the inner, I have negative 2 times 4. They're outside of jail, so negative 2 times 4, negative 8 times radical 5. And now 3 radical 5 times 1 is just 3 radical 5. And then my last term, negative 2 times 1 is negative 2. We now combine like terms, but first this is 60. Negative 8 plus 3 is negative 5 radical 5, because we're combining like radicals, and we had a minus 2. But the 60 subtract 2 gives us a final answer of 58 minus 5 radical 5. This gets a little more complicated when it's a cube root. So for example, suppose I ask you to multiply and of course simplify cube root of x plus 2 times 3 cube root of x minus 4. For this one, our first term is going to be a cube root of x, and it's going to have inside jail you've got another cube root of x. But for this one, for cube roots, you have to have 3 of them to get rid of the radical, and we'll only have 2. So that first step will have to include just a cube root of x squared. So working this, our first term gives us 3 was outside jail. Cube root of x times cube root of x is cube root of x squared. Our inner, 2 times 3, 6, cube root of x. Our outer, negative 4 times the cube root of x. And finally, our last, 2 times negative 4 is negative 8. The only thing to simplify the like radicals are these middle terms. Our final answer for this is 3 cube root of x squared. 6 of these minus 4 is 2 cube root of just x, and then minus 8. So that becomes that result.